Everyone, I'm Laurent Mignon. I'm a software engineer and technical lead and software architect at Axon, where I focus on designing and implementing open source business solution with passion for Odoo and OCA based system. With over 20 years of experience, I have had the chance to work on projects that bridge technical innovation with real-world efficiency. So today I'm a little bit afraid and excited to share with you one of those projects. It's a new one. It's a new approach to document management within Odoo that will leverage external file system seamlessly, securely, and with the flexibility of the OCA community loves, at least I hope. So this is an evolution of the AlphaDoo initiative, but with a focus on genericity, extensibility, and user experience. And the goal is to bridge the gap between Odoo and any external file systems. So whether it's a SharePoint on a S3 storage or a local NAS, while keeping the experience for the users intuitive and powerful for the developers. So let's talk about the business need. Most of the companies today are already using a file system, like SharePoint or Google Drive and so on. They are comfortable with their systems and they don't want to give them up just because they are adopting Odoo. So the challenge is clear. How can we bring Odoo with these external file systems together so users can get the best of both worlds? Alors, our answer is very simple. Don't replace, leverage. So with our solution, companies can keep using their existing file system, your existing file infrastructure, but now with the power of the Odoo workflow, automation, and data model. So imagine being able to link a folder of your SharePoint repository to a project and directly manage your files and your content from within Odoo. That's the goal of your integration. So this is about making their current system more valuable, but not asking them to start over. So let's see with a real-world example that I'm pretty sure many of you will recognize. So imagine you are an IT company and your task, your timeline, your budget is managed into Odoo, but your document, the analysis, the diagram, and so on, are managed into your external file system, into a SharePoint drive, for example. And for sure, you have a specific classification rule to know where to put your files. The problem here is when you are into Odoo and you want to get access to the document, you must use another application, switch the context. And therefore, you create a gap between Odoo and the way you manage your files. So what if you could access and manage your project files directly from the Odoo project record? Just a seamless integrated experience. So that's exactly what I will demonstrate into this demo. So first of all, I go into Odoo. I log into my application. And yes, I'm an admin. Yes, I'm not an admin. I'm not an admin. OK, so here I'm into Odoo. I'm a project manager. I go into my project. And in my project, I want to get access to the settings of my project. In this project, I need to manage my document. So since I need to manage my documents, I go on my Documents tab. I click on the Create folder. And yes, I have a folder. And I have a folder where? Just into my SharePoint. But to go into SharePoint, I have to log with my account. password. No, SharePoint. And oops. Yes. And I'm into SharePoint. And as you can see, my project has been created into a specific location that follows the classification rule. In my case here, I start with project, the year, and a sequence for deduce from the sequence on the project. From there, I can add any file I want to add to my folders. For example, if I can upload some PDF, I can upload some documents or some icons. So I'm here in my Odoo, and the magic with SharePoint is if I click on the icon, I can edit my document directly from Odoo. If I edit my document, for example, my new title, I will save it. Oops. I close. I also get access directly from Odoo to the preview, and the preview is the one provided by SharePoint in this case. So from Odoo, I get access to all the basic functionality of SharePoint of any file system like storage. So I can create document, upload document, download document. I can create subfolders. And if I need a more specialized application, more specialized action or functionality, I just have to jump into the external file system by one click. That means everything you do into Odoo is very easy, it's integrated, and you are always at one click of the specialized file system. Before this integration, you have to remember, oh, okay, the classification plan is this classification plan. Since I work on this project, I have to go into this directory and do all the navigation by yourself. It's no more the case. Here we are with SharePoint, but it's not linked to a specific file system here. You can also use other file system, and by default, for example, if I go on the contact form, on my contact form, I will see this in another folder. On my contact form, I will show you that I have added a simple field with the Odoo user interface. My field is named fs something, no, folder. I have added a new field named xfs folder because it's added by the interface with a specific type, which is external file folder. And on the view form, I just add a new field into my form. Just at the end, you can see here, I have added a new page with the field. No, it's not this one. Oops. Fields. If I open the form view of the field, it's not the right one, but on the contact form, view form. I click on the form, and I get access to the view form. Okay. Keep calm. So here I have control. I just add a documents tab with just a field. And just by doing this, if I go on my form, on my contact form for Azure, for example, I've integrated a new folder. And this folder, when I click, it's created. But this folder is not stored into SharePoint. In this case, it's stored on my local file system. I can show you where it's stored. It's stored on my local file system. For example, I will take my file copy this file into my subfolders and refresh the view, and okay, I have my file directly visible into Odoo. How it works? In one case, I have a SharePoint. In another case, I have a local file system. It's just because I use different storage to store my file. And in Odoo, you have the ability to declare a lot of storage. And for example, here, I have declared a storage for Microsoft Drive. And in this storage, I have defined that I want to use this storage to store folder for this field, the FS folder field declared on my project. And for the local directory, as you can see here, it's a local directory, a local file system. I put the path, and I just say, okay, I want to use this file system to store this field. So, look, something that you can also do when you use a specialized file system, for example, when you use SharePoint. On my project, I go back into my project. I have my documents. As you can see here, I have an additional field description. The field description is a special field from SharePoint. And if I go into SharePoint, I'm able, for example, to add a value on the field description and put this value, for example, world. Okay. I leave the grid edit view, and I get all the specific metadata from my external file system into my view. So very, very, very easy. No, it's easy, not before. So so just in 5 minutes, we have gone from a fragmented workflow where you have to do all the manual navigation by yourself to a fully integrated experience. So for end users, it's all about convenience and efficiency. And for developers, as we will see, it's about flexibility and extensibility. So let's take a look closer into the code. So at the core of this integration, we have the fsspec library. It's a Python library that provides an abstraction layer on top of different file systems. It supports backend like conventional file system on your local directory, FTP, SFTP. It also supports S3. So we added the support for the SharePoint file system, and there are also new support for the Google Drive file system. But that means since it's a generic library providing an abstraction layer, it's a game changer for the developer because he writes its code only once using the API provided by the library, and this code works exactly the same way depending on the backend configure behind the library. In our case, we started with the FS storage add-on, which is an add-on already existing into the OCA community. This add-on is used, for example, for the FS attachment add-on that some integrator use to store the Odoo attachment into S3-like, for example, file store, in place of using a mountain drive on the Odoo instance. Very, very useful when you have distributed Odoo installation, for example. And in our case, we developed a new add-on, or at least the base add-on is the FS folder add-on, a new add-on. And this add-on provides a new field. And this new field is named FS folder field, FS folder, as you can see here. Just in one line of code here, when I use this add-on, I'm able to link an Odoo record to an external folder. As you have seen into the demo with the contact form, I do exactly the same by using the Odoo interface and declaring the FS folder with the Odoo interface. That's the same line of code. By default, when you declare your folder, it's always created at the root of the mounted file system. So I have linked my folder, my field to a storage. My storage I've configured, for example, into my local directory that it was home, LMI, OCA days 2025. That's my local system. And it will be created with the display name of the record as the name of the folder. But this field allows you to add more complexity to specialize the behavior to your need. For example, you can provide a create name get method that will be called to get the name to use to create the folder into the external file system. And in this case, for example, we use the reference. This method is designed to work as an API one. So you receive a list of records, you receive the file system abstraction layer, an object that makes the abstraction layer, and you can do what you want. You can also specify a create parent get method. This method is very useful when you want to enforce a specific classification plan, because it's responsible to provide the parent directory where the the folder will be created. So by doing this, you ensure consistency to all the folder created and ensure, for example, the classification plan of your library. You could also provide others method, but the documentation is there to discover this method. You can provide the most basic folder the most basic method that should be used to create the folder into the external file system. It's very convenient, for example, when you don't want to create a folder, but create a folder if it doesn't exist, or link it if it exists. You just provide the create method to use. You receive the file system. You check into the file system where you want to create your folder if the folder still exists. If it exists, you return the reference. If it doesn't exist, you create it. And into your view, it's as simple as any other field. You just put a field in your view, and the widget will be automatically used to display your folder. So it's not a simple field. What do you expect when you access a field? For example, when you store a path to a folder, you expect to receive probably a string. In our case, we don't receive a string. We receive a specialized object. And this specialized object is an instance of FS folder value. This FS folder value gives you three main key features. The FS attribute. The FS attribute is the object making the abstraction with your file system. And from this property, you are able to directly manage the content of your folder by using methods to deal with your file system. From my value to the file system in one access to a specific client stub. You also have the reference. If you want to know, okay, my folder has this reference into this file system, it could be the path. But, for example, into the SharePoint case, with the reference is the identifier into SharePoint, not the path. It's very important and convenient in such a case, because if you store the identifier, that means that in SharePoint, when you, for example, move a folder, the identifier remains the same, so the reference stays right into Odoo. When you store the path, if you move your folder into the external file system, the reference into Odoo is broken. And you also have a very specialized method, initialize, and that's a method that allows you to create the folder into the file system. That's a method that it's called when you click on the create button into the user interface. So from there, a little example, when you write your code, here I create an object, and I get access to the FS folder field. And as expected, my field is not yet initialized. So it's comparable to false, it's comparable to none. But even if it's comparable, it's still an object. So I can call the initialize method, and I receive a new fs folder value object. And from this fs folder value object, which is also put into the cache on my record, I can directly deal with the file system. So with the file system client stub, I'm able, for example, to list the content of my file system object. It's very important to see here how I list the content of my file system, because I start with a slash. That means that my client stub is routed to the directory specific to my folder. No way to get or to navigate up to the parent or outside of the scope of this folder. You can also create subdirectories. There are a lot of methods, move directories, and so on. But also, you are able, as with any other files on your local system, you are able to use the open method that returns a file-like object. And from this file-like object, you are able to write content, read content, as you do in your Python code by default. Even if it's stored in history, even if it's stored in Google Drive, even if it's stored on your local system, you open your file, and everything is correctly written or read. So that made, in my opinion, that made this integration very, very powerful and very convenient for the developer, because from there you have a unique way to access the content, and this content is already restricted to the scope of your folder. So, yes, security. So the security is a top priority in this implementation. We have designed it with multiple layers of protection to ensure that everything is secure. The first layer of protection is that if you want to create the first layer is what I have already said. Your folder is always scoped to your folder. All the action you do in the file system on the folder of your record is scoped to this folder. No way to get out. It's enforced by the specialized class used for the abstraction layer. We use an adapter that breaks every functionality and ensure that if you put a relative path to access a file, it will not get out of the current folder. That's the first principle, rooted access. The second layer is into the Python core. First, if you want to access your field, as any other field, you need to have the right access, the read access to your record. If you want to create a field, you need to have the right access to your record. If you want to write your field, for example, initialize your field, but you don't have the right access, it doesn't work. First layer at Python code. The second layer is at the view layer and the widget layer. All the code made to the widget are routed through the fs folder field web API abstract model. This abstract model defines all the methods exposed and used by the widget. Depending on the method, for each method, we put a check that will check if the user has the right access. He can, for example, create a new folder. He can delete a file. He can write a file. But if he has not the right access, it's forbidden. The same to list the content. The user needs the read access on this folder. So the API is finally follow the user the same rule as any other object. But in the case of the SharePoint integration, we go even further because we add a new layer. When you do Odoo, that's a protocol used here with when we integrate with SharePoint. That means that when I open a connection on SharePoint, the first thing that is done is request an authentication of the user on SharePoint. There is a specific code in place here. So when I clicked on the create button, a call has been made on SharePoint to get the authentication token and the refresh token for the Odoo on the SharePoint. So any call done after this first call are done with the user as the user, with the identity of the user to SharePoint, as it's done when you use the SharePoint user interface. That means that in this case, in addition to the Odoo security layer, we add the SharePoint security layer. Because if you have write access in Odoo and you try to write something on your folder but don't have the right access on SharePoint, SharePoint will forbid you to make the operation. So it's very convenient to have such a system or such dedicated document management system where you ensure that the identity is propagated between the two systems because you ensure consistency into the data security models put in place by your company. In conclusion, there are a lot of new add-ons used to build this new way to manage documents into Odoo. The first one is the FS folder add-on, the base one, the one that is used for the example with the contact. The contact only works with the FS folder add-on, but for the integration with Microsoft Drive, it's a little bit trickier. The first one there was no existing backend adapter for fsspec and SharePoint, so I developed the MS Graphs FS add-on, a Python add-on, which is an extension to fsspec that supports the MS Drive protocol through the MS Drive endpoint through the MS Graph protocol. It's very, very tricky because, for example, when you write a file into SharePoint, you must divide your file into a chunk of the same size and conclude with the last chunk by a specific command. So when you use the right method, you have to, okay, I use a buffer, and when my buffer is at a given size, I have to call SharePoint with a specific token I have received on the first call, and so on. But everything is hidden. This module is a new contribution to the Python community. We have also developed a module, an add-on to allow you to link MS Drive account to your user account into Odoo. And last but not least, two other modules. A new one also to specialize the FS storage add-on when we use the Microsoft Drive, when we use Odoo, because when we open a connection, we have to provide a callback to ensure that if the refresh token is called, the new token will be saved into Odoo by the method that do the refresh mechanism. So that's the responsibility of the FS storage MS Drive add-on. And the last one is the FS folder MSJ Graph add-on. And this add-on extends the FS folder add-on to add some specific column, also to format some column in a different way that it's done in the folder, the FS folder, the base add-on, because when you receive the modification date or the creation date from your POSIX file system, the format is not the same as the one provided by SharePoint, for example. So we do the right conversion into this layer. That means that when we have put in place these new add-ons, our goal was to provide something that works with SharePoint, but we started with something working with local folder. So there are plenty of improvement possible. You are welcome to contribute. You are welcome to use this add-ons. I will be happy to have some feedback if you think they are useful. I will be happy to, or if you think it's not the right approach, it's also something I will be happy to hear. And if you have any question, okay, I'm here. Yes, it's just for you.
Okay, so as it's only for recording, so first of all, thank you. That's a really great job, impressive. Question regarding security. So you mentioned that you have record-wise security based on the record access rules.
Yes.
Do you have also field access security? So can you limit this field to specific groups?
No, not at this time. In my to-do, in my to-do, we have two places where we could improve the security. As you mentioned, be able to put a specific group on the field, but also to adapt the abstraction layer to prevent any call to method modifying the folder if the user has just read access on the folder. It's done at the API level. It's not possible from outside Odoo to modify a folder if you don't have the right access. But in Odoo, when you use the the file system spec object, the abstraction layer to manage your folder, we don't enforce the Odoo security to prevent, for example, that when a call is done for a user with read access and a method create a folder, this method should be prevented.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next question. Thank you very much for the presentation. I've two questions. The first is, can you make the files public for customer access? So when you share it in SharePoint, how does it work
The goal here is not to duplicate functionality. If you need to make your file public and you use SharePoint, do it with SharePoint. The goal here is to allow you to efficiently manage files linked to a context in Odoo, a project, a specific model that represents this context, from within Odoo. So that's why if we want to keep this approach the more generic and the less time-consuming when we have to migrate from version to version and so on, the goal is not to re-implement all the functionality provided by the other other file system manager. We just provide the base one. If you need the specialized one, you just click and jump into the specialized file system in one click. So why do you want I write a ton of code to duplicate functionality? It's a nonsense, in my opinion. But you are free to do it. Huh?
I think he wanted to do it in a portal, in the front end. For example, if you have a customer connect to the portal and you want to expose the documents, it would be weird to redirect him to SharePoint stuff.
Yes and no, because by using the API put in place for the widget, you can expose the file from within Odoo. And for example, when you access the file into the folder linked to a model, if you get the URL of the file you want to the method, it will return a stream-like object at the HTTP level. So it's very efficient, in theory.
if nobody else has a question, we use Nextcloud. I assume the fsspec has some provider for WebDAV, or is there a high chance that it's already supported?
There
Or how
are,
to check?
it's possible. You have to look into the fsspec library if a specific backend adapter exists for this this platform, or you have to write it by your own.
Okay, thank you.
If the OneDrive deployment has been done previously to Odoo, is it possible to map to an existing folder?
Yes.
That can be anywhere in the hierarchy?
No, not anywhere.
Okay.
At least, not anywhere. Yeah. You can provide the method to call to link your to create the reference to your folder into Odoo on your field. That means that programmatically you could, if you know the classification rule apply to find the right folder, you can code it. But I have no widget at this moment because I don't need it. But I have no widget that could, where, for example, we could imagine to have two buttons on the form. One create and one link. And by clicking on link, allows you, the user, to select the target into the expected file system. But this part doesn't exist because I don't need it.
Okay, and just in case we just map this directory, is it possible to upload the file names into Odoo, or does it work
Upload
like
the file
that?
names, that means, sorry.
Because all the examples is you just upload the documents from Odoo to OneDrive.
Oui.
If you just map an existing directory in OneDrive, does it upload the list of files within Odoo?
Yes, very interesting question. There are no data duplication. There are no synchronization between Odoo and the external file system. If you add something into your external file system, nothing is added into Odoo. But when you access to your folder from within Odoo, we navigate in real time in this file system. We want, one motivation for this integration is mainly also to prevent this kind of system where you need to put in place a bidirectional synchronization mechanism. It's not the case here because it's too complex, it's error prone, and it's a nightmare to maintain. In this case, we just maintain one reference, and from there, we navigate in real time.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question with the local file system. On the contact form, you said that the folder used the name, the display name of the contact.
Yes.
What
Yes, because I just declared the field using the Odoo interface. If I write a new models and I use the method hook to provide the folder name on the path, it will work as it works with SharePoint in my example.
That was just a demo, or
yes, it was just a demo, just to show you. Okay, it works, and it works even if you use if you add the field by using the interface. It's very easy.
Yeah, I'm putting the after your question. How about if the contact name changes?
How?
What's happening if the contact name is changing? For
Nothing.
example? Nothing.
Nothing at this stage. Nothing. For basic implementation, we store the path, and we update. When we update the name into Odoo, the field name into Odoo is updated, but not the path into your local file system.
Hi, Laurent. Thank you for the talk. So I'm using Odoo 12, very old, and using Alfresco.
Yeah.
So I believe you also contributed to that.
I'm the author.
So one goal I have is planning to get rid of Alfresco, coming back to object storage and whatnot, right? So this one is an interesting one, which is kind of very similar to Alfresco and
Yep.
CMIS lib.
But so yes, one idea to replace Alfredo for our customer, for example, I imagine to write the backend adapter for Alfresco. No more using the CMIS API, but using the Alfresco API. And as we do it for SharePoint, use the O2 protocol for the authentication. So that's an idea. For the moment, we could do it in the next months if we have a client requesting it, but that's the idea.
Okay, so 2 questions to this. One pertaining to the demo that you had with integration to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are a Google shop, so but the permissions and authorizations is both on Odoo and SharePoint. So does your current code, can we simulate like the way that we did for CMIS, where you have specified an Odoo user which has rights, whether it's a read or write?
So,
and
yes, but the problem here is that by default, a file system doesn't provide information about the possible action or the permission of the user on the content. So I have no generic way to know that this user on this folder can do this action. But if your specialization backend provide this information, you just can extend the existing implementation and take advantage of this information to prevent the display of the upload file, for example, if you don't have the right access on the folder into your backend.
Oh, okay. And second question was, do you have any plans for Google stuff? Google Object, Google Drive?
I started an implementation for Google Drive, and at the time I started the implementation, I just checked for the name into PyPy to be sure that it doesn't exist. And the same day, a guy started the same work. So a Google Drive integration exists. I didn't have
Using the same fsspec, using the same fsspec.
Yes, for fsspec. But for sure, you will have to make the integration with the FS storage, also to manage the authentication, the way the authentication must be put in place. It's probably also an Odoo provider that can be put in place, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, for example, we also put, just for the fun, if I generate a report, sometimes it's very useful. In this case, pops, I will have just a little report. And now I have a new folder, pops, with my reports stored into my file system.